All right, everybody, good morning. I'm gonna have everyone kind of just settle in your seats, grab a little breakfast, a little nosh. We'll quiet down. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Charlotte, North Carolina and ReFed 2026. I could not be more excited to be your MC. My name is Joel Gamron. I'm the CEO of a company called Homemade. This is my third year getting to be a food waste Sherpa with all you guys. And so excited to be back. And I'm joined here by our executive director of ReFed, Sarah. Sarah, how are you?
Good, good, good. Thank you, Joel. Good morning, everybody. We are so excited to be here in Charlotte and kick things off.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing couple of days. Every year, I feel like the bar does go up. And we just learned so much about where the ball is moving. Me personally, as a food waste crusader or fighter, sometimes for me, I feel lonely in the year that I'm not at ReFed. And when I get here, you see your buddies, you compare notes, you feel like you're not in a silo fighting this big, big war against food waste, and you're learning and you're kind of progressing, and it's really, really meaningful. So I hope this couple of days will serve you in that way. Make sure to connect with new people, connect with old people, and again, just be an open book because there's so much to learn. There's so much we're bringing to this stage, and of course, to downstairs to our breakout rooms too. So what are some of the things that you're really looking forward to?
It is going to be a really exciting 2 days.
Yes.
I mean, on the main stage, we're leaning on this fabulous
I know, this
table,
gonna be
right?
insane. Yes.
I'm not saying it's going to happen every year, but I am super excited for one of our opening sessions here at this kitchen table and a really great conversation about the state of food and where we are right now. There's some breakouts that are killer. Biomimicry. Didn't think that was not on my bingo card as a topic.
Yep.
You know, some things that we're going to geek out about. Packaging and depackaging.
Absolutely.
You know, consumer behavior change campaigns, runs the gamut, lots of policy conversations.
Of course, AI and how that
course.
plays into everything. And we've got some amazing innovators here and people doing crazy things, layering in AI. It's amazing how far that's all gone since we kind of first started talking about it. So unbelievable. And I know a lot of people were here yesterday. We went on some amazing field trips. We even had a little food waste trivia. Give it up for the food waste trivia winners.
Yes.
You guys were awesome. And we've got some really exciting announcements coming up, but I just wanted to say thank you guys all for being here. It's just so, energizing to see everyone in their efforts, everyone doing what they do and fighting the good fight. And so we're going to kind of bring up Angel now, is that correct?
Yeah, just 1 second. I have two things I want to point out.
Yes.
One, I know that folks who were here at the welcome reception, this year it is 10-year anniversary of the roadmap, which actually kicked off what would become ReFed. Certainly not the start of the movement. As I know by our advocates, our allies, all the other crusaders who are in the room, this fight has been going on for a really long time. We're celebrating that this week. There's some really great conversations too. Don't leave early. Tomorrow we have a great conversation and a panel with folks who were here at the beginning so we can learn from the past.
Absolutely.
And also some really good conversations challenging us what the next 10 years should look like. And so definitely stick around for that. I want to thank our sponsors. We wouldn't be here without them. In particular, our gold sponsors, the Posner Foundation, the Byrne and Pamela Murphy Family Foundation, the Betsy and Jesse Fink Family Foundation, longtime sponsors and folks who make this all possible. We have lots of other great sponsors and exhibitors. Go out, see everybody. And lastly, there's a lot of folks in this room, and we're not going to name all of them, but what we call the tent builders. We often talk, and you'll see images around the room of the big tent. That's what we have. When ReFed started, we said, how do we create a big tent where absolutely everybody is welcome, everybody has a space in this movement? And there's some tent builders who've been here since the beginning, and we just want to thank them. They know exactly who they are, and they've helped us get this far, and I know that they're helping propel us into the future.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Thank you to the temple. That's huge.
And I am very, very excited that we are kicking off the summit this year with the announcement of our next Catalytic Grant Fund grantees. And for that, I'm going to welcome Angel Veza, our Director of Innovation Initiatives.
Good morning, everyone. When we set out to launch this Catalytic Grant Fund 4 years ago, we were seeking to fill a really critical gap catalytic capital that could de-risk innovation and accelerate high-impact solutions to food waste. And since then, we now have an amazing portfolio of 21 grantees that are collectively leveraging ReFed's support 13 times over. They have unlocked over $42 million of follow-on funding. That is a really powerful signal, not just of how strong these solutions are, but the role catalytic capital can play to mobilizing capital and opening pathways to scale. And so we are just so proud of the work they've done. Many of them are in the room today, so be on the lookout for that ReFed grantee on their badge, and be sure to say hi and learn more about their work. Now, none of this would be possible without our amazing funders who are in the room today. I want to give a special shout out to our first anchor funders, Google and Toast.org, who believed in us from the very beginning. And I also want to give a special thanks to the Ballmer Group, who is the anchor funder for this methane open call, along with the Whiteman Family Foundation and Argosy Foundation. This open call is our most ambitious yet. As we all know, methane reduction has been recognized as a key emergency brake in our collective fight against climate change. And so when we announced this open call last year, the interest was overwhelming. We received nearly 400 organizations reaching out to learn more, wanting this funding, and we really had to lean in on the expertise of our independent review committee, which is comprised of subject matter experts and practitioners from across the field. And they really strengthened our thinking and challenged our assumptions. And this is a huge strength of ReFed's. Our network, our collective expertise, and our ability to tap into that. And with their support, we were able to identify really exceptional solutions. And now, without further ado, I'm very excited to announce our winners of this methane open call. And if you're in the room today, I am going to embarrass you and ask you to please stand so that we can properly recognize you. So first up, I want to announce University of Georgia. Their researchers are converting surplus fruits, vegetables, and agricultural byproducts into climate-smart feed for cattle through an innovative fermentation platform that can reduce methane emissions from cattle. Give them a big round of applause. Gilly Biotechnologies is also working on a cattle feed additive that unlocks the nutritional value of agricultural byproducts while reducing methane intensity. Woo! All right. And Golden State Foods is developing scalable tools and industry resources to reduce beef waste across the industry by helping them adopt best practices. Fermiade is tackling one of the dairy industry's most difficult waste streams, whey byproducts, by converting them into valuable food-grade ingredients through fermentation, creating a circular solution with methane reduction potential. The Compost Research and Education Foundation is modernizing national compost testing standards to improve compost quality and strengthen industry credibility. Yeah, give them a big round of applause. Yes. The Black Earth Compost Group is solving one of composting's biggest operational barriers, contamination. They're building innovative equipment that enables food waste mixed with compostable packaging to be processed. Woo! Organicycle, in partnership with Waste Management, is pioneering a co-location model that expands composting infrastructure while reducing permitting barriers and accelerating deployment in underserved regions. Give them a big round of applause. Hey, Dan. Rust Belt Riders is scaling a worker-owned composting model that transforms food scraps into living soil while building local circular economies. Give them a big round of applause. And last but absolutely not least, New Terra Compost is proactively building infrastructure in composting deserts in areas like Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, markets with no regulatory pressure but clear operational need, demonstrating that viable service models can be established ahead of policy mandates. Give them all a big round of applause.
awesome. Please make sure to connect with these grantees, and congratulations to them. For me, ReFed has always been a North Star as it pertains to food waste. And the North Star is our president, Dana Gunders, who's going to come give us a little bit of insight of where food waste is, where we're headed. Every year I look forward to this. Please give it up for our president, our leader, my buddy, Dana Gunders.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Joel and Sarah and Angel and the grantees. I love kicking the summit off with this energy. Also, huge thank you right from the start here to Jackie Chi, Jackie Summit, Kelsey Walden-McLevich for organizing, and everyone else who did, but for just spending half your year planning this incredible event. I also can't start without thanking Pamela Murphy, our board chair, Sarah Burnett, our executive director, and Jesse Fink, our founder, for just all of the thought partnership and mentorship. Love working with you guys. And thank you to you all for being here. As you've already heard and will hear many times again, ReFed is celebrating the 10-year anniversary of our original roadmap, which led to the organization that we are today that works across the food system to try to solve food waste and to create a big tent where everyone is welcome. We are doing a lot of reflecting in this process of becoming 10. And if there's one feeling that's really stood out for me, it's just an appreciation for the passion that is behind this work. Your commitment, the core conviction that in helping food go to its best use, we're creating an impact that is bigger than the food itself. So I just come to this with such deep gratitude for everything that you have done over the past 10 years, many of you more than 10 years. And for being here to keep doing it. And if this is your first time and you're just coming in, then welcome and thank you for being curious. Sometimes though, when we're in the work, it's hard to just see what we're accomplishing. So I'd like to begin by taking stock of just that. 10 years ago, 5 states had passed food waste diversion laws. Now 12 have them. Only a handful of companies had adopted food waste commitments. Now 3/4 of large food companies include mention in their public reports, and many are making headway. Some have even surpassed their 50% goal. 10 years ago, all these recent college grads had these crazy business ideas that were popping up everywhere. And now some of those organizations have saved millions of pounds of food. 10 years ago, not one of the organizations on this slide had been built. Just take that in for a second. I originally was going to try to capture the impact of these for you, and it was honestly just like too many numbers. 40 cities here, 1,000 schools there, 36,000 employees trained, and it just went on and on. Because there is a whole new ecosystem of organizations and networks set up to support this work now. And 10 years ago, I remember looking at efforts around renewable energy and thinking, we're missing so much of the core foundation that field has. And now, that foundation is there. What hasn't changed is the momentum, the energy, the feeling that food waste it's a huge problem, but it's one that we can take on. And that momentum just continues. I mean, just to give you a few examples, the U.S. Food Waste Pact, which is a collaboration between businesses working with their industry peers to cut waste, they nearly doubled in size over the past year, adding 14 new signatories and showing progress in both the retail and food service sectors. The Food Date Labeling Act is closer than ever to becoming law because this year it got huge industry endorsements and for the first time ever, a Republican co-sponsor in the Senate, Senator Rick Scott, now making it a bipartisan bill in both the House and the Senate. And beyond that, this administration has shown interest in reducing food waste at several agencies. Actually, just yesterday, the FDA and USDA announced a $15 million investment in recovering protein, food recovery for protein, and also cold chain infrastructure. And it's the first time I've seen RFK come out with a quote that actually mentioned reducing food waste in it. Also, at the EPA, they have both launched their Feed It Onward program, and they are also funding an exciting new effort to empower households to prevent food waste. It's called the Ending Wasted Food Within a Generation program, and it's a 5-year coalition project led by the World Wildlife Fund that has 3 parts, and the largest of those parts is the National Household Wasted Food Prevention Project. Say that 3 times fast. But it will have a national media campaign that is developed in partnership with the Ad Council, and about 15 community grants ranging from $75,000 to $750,000. Okay, now your ears perked up. Actually, the grant period just opened, and you can find out more at the URL right there. Also, when the campaign is ready in 2027, we are going to need everyone out there to partner in trying to get the campaign out as far and wide as we can. If you're interested in that, please scan that QR code and enter your information, and we'll keep you updated as the campaign is developed. And I just have to tell you, as someone who was deeply engaged in the Save the Food campaign back in the day, if you remember that, I'm incredibly excited for this because we all know how critical households are to solving food waste. And this project has the potential to just really create that culture shift we need that, frankly, we will not solve food waste without. All right, there's, of course, a ton more going on right now, but rather than list it all for you, I'd like to talk about results. So we recently released data for 2024. That's our most recent year. This view is for surplus food, which is anything that goes unsold or uneaten, regardless of whether it gets donated, composted, or recycled in another way. And this view is across the whole food system, but it's per capita because I think that is the best indicator of progress. Now, I realize the most notable thing on here is the giant dip during the pandemic, but let's be real, half the food industry shut down then, so it's kind of an exception. At ReFed, we are celebrating that from 2023 to 2024, there was a decrease of 3.7%. And while that may seem small, it's a big deal because it is the first time outside of the pandemic that we have seen a decrease in the numbers. And the impact is actually quite big. We estimate this avoided greenhouse gas emissions equivalent to 850,000 cars, not to mention the water, the meals donated, and more. But that's just the past year. If we compare with 10 years ago, we have a 6.5% decrease per capita. That's something. And to take it just a bit further, I tried to compare this with what is referred to as business as usual. Now, this is something often done in the energy industry to project where things would have been if no efforts. Yeah, this, to be clear, has not been blessed by our data team. Calling it Dana's personal back of envelope calculation. But I had to share it anyway because if you look at what would have happened if the trends from 2016 to 2019 had continued, we are actually over 10% lower than that. And that is before we account for any progress in food donations, composting, or other recycling. Now, that's right? Let's celebrate this. This is like a big ship to turn. I know. Now, of course, we still have a long way to go. But I would argue that we are in the perfect moment to just accelerate this work. Because while the world has felt somewhat chaotic recently, many of the forces at play are actually tailwinds for reducing food waste. High food prices are changing consumer behavior and justifying new business investments. GLP-1s and Make America Healthy Again efforts are changing the way people eat, but they're also changing the food that restaurants are offering and how products are formulated. And then there's AI, which, well, seems to be changing everything, including food waste. I should mention, actually, that ReFed just today released a report about AI's impact on food waste. You should check it out at refed.org, and also we will have a session that goes over it, a lot of the content this afternoon on the main stage. And we also have a new AI-powered research assistant on our Insights engine, so check that out as well. But I digress. The point is, AI, huge tailwind. But even some of the more complicated factors right now actually serve to position food waste reduction well. Volatility is a huge challenge for companies right now. Supply chains are being disrupted as much as ever, which is a lot to say after times like the pandemic. Nitrogen fertilizer prices have increased 30 to 50% since the Iran war began. Some say this could lead to nothing short of a full-blown food crisis at the international level. Federal and state budgets are significantly tightened, and philanthropy is strained trying to fill in that gap. And I know that some of your budgets have been tightened as well. So yes, there is a lot going on in the world. And these forces, AI, GLP-1s, higher prices, supply chain disruptions, they're changing business and individual behavior, and they're changing business models. Put together, it's leading to what I'm going to coin right now, people, right here, the great redesign of the food system. This is a huge opportunity. We need to be capitalizing on all the new systems being put in place, the new formulations, the new priorities. We should be painting a vision of how, as part of the great redesign, players across the food system are designing out waste. The challenge is, I don't think we've really articulated that how very well. As one funder that was recently interviewed put it, it's hard to figure out what the biggest levers are to pull. And to be honest, I agree. With the level of complexity that is the food system, we have a million silver buckshots, but no silver bullet. And it's just not that kind of issue. But that has created a murkiness that is hindering more people from getting involved. If we could lay out a vision for these next 10 or maybe even 20 years, with the 3 to 5 highest priority changes that need to happen in the food system and the key steps to getting there, that would not only galvanize the work, it would make it more accessible and bring more people in. Some of it's doing more of what we're doing and scaling what's working for sure, but we also need to be thinking differently and thinking bigger. I don't have the answer, but rather an invitation. Over the next few days, allow yourself to think big. What needs to be true in 20 years to have really addressed food waste? And how can we work backward from that to determine what to do now? When I think of this, I think about a food system that's truly driven by demand, communicating up and down the supply chain, responding dynamically so that overproduction nearly disappears. I think about a system where business and policy incentives are better aligned with waste reduction. I imagine a nationwide system that manages surplus food so that it all either gets rescued or recycled, and it gives us real-time measurement and feedback. And a culture that truly values food and thinks that throwing food out is as taboo as littering. I bet you have some thoughts too. My hope for you is that the next day and a half can be kind of like a work spa. That's a new term I'm coining too. But kind of like this luxurious opportunity to think really big, ridiculous ideas and exchange them and test them out. I know we won't all agree on a vision this week, but let's start thinking about it together, because there is power in alignment. We're at an incredibly exciting time. The past decade plus has set us up so well. We have the foundation, we have the tailwinds, there's so much we know, there's so much we can do right now, and so much opportunity to shepherd the great redesign toward a future where food simply doesn't go to waste. So let's get to work. Thank you.
"2025 was a challenging year in some ways. But Project Green Fork, a program of Clean Memphis, also had a lot to celebrate. Our Food Waste Warriors pilot brought food waste reduction strategies and share tables to 11 schools. Early data shows up to 70% reduction in milk waste, and 23,000 fewer units of milk were ordered during the first semester. This is saving the school district $8,000 per year, and we're just getting started."
Hi, ReFed. I'm Jessica Regan with Food Mesh. We are a B Corp and food recovery service provider helping businesses and governments reduce waste and feed more. We just turned 10, and one of our big wins is helping our network divert over 1 million meals each month, as well as surpassing $3 million in revenue sharing with our charity and food bank partners. By baking in revenue streams into the food recovery process, we're helping offset their costs and truly creating a resilient circular economy to give food a second chance. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Celine. I'm from Amy's Kitchen, and in the last year we donated over 485,000 pounds of finished goods and raw material, as well as 116,000 pounds of boxes that would have otherwise gone to waste. That's nearly 500,000 meals donated to food banks. Huge shout out to all the food banks that we worked with. Your collaboration made rescuing and redistributing food easier than ever. Every meal makes a difference.
Hi, Linda Bregan here with the Environmental Law Institute. This year, based on an ELI and NRDC model ordinance, Albuquerque City Council passed legislation removing zoning barriers to community composting projects. I'm also excited to share that ELI and NRDC just released a model state law on food waste in K-12 schools. Over 7 billion school meals are served each year, and about 30% of the milk and vegetables go uneaten. But states can reduce this waste by adopting the model.
Hi, ReFed. I'm Dee.
And I'm Julia,
and we're from the Drexel Food Lab. Over the past year, we've been successful in sharing our food waste reduction tips and tricks to our followers on Instagram.
In fact, I've been doing a series highlighting how to use one ingredient in 3 ways, and it's been really fun.
And I'm working on finishing my PhD, which focuses on culinary nutrition education to reduce household food waste. We unfortunately lost our EPA grant, but that hasn't stopped us from sharing how to reduce food waste. We're excited to continue to do good, feed well, and keep going.
Hi, this is Isa Glassen with Western Growers. This year, we launched the Sustainable Produce Packaging Alignment Roadmap, also known as the SPA Roadmap, which highlights the critical role that packaging plays in minimizing food waste. For example, innovations like 2D barcoding are enhancing traceability and food safety, helping minimize losses along the supply chain. Through this work, we're collaborating with the industry to advance science-based, sustainable packaging guidelines for fresh produce.
Hey, my name is Andy Levitt, and I'm the founder and CEO of Brightly, and we've had a fantastic year. We've been working with 28 different food rescue organizations across the country, quantifying more than 5 billion pounds of avoided food loss and waste, and turning them into the first of their kind A-rated credits. We're on the cusp now of seeing those credits issued to us from Vera, which will allow us to generate meaningful and sustainable revenue for our food rescue partners this year. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Madison Gitlin with the University of Minnesota's Institute on the Environment. This past year, we conducted research discovering that food recovery organizations are able to earn carbon offsets for the emissions reductions associated with their food rescue activities. And so we developed a carbon credits for food recovery implementation guide with step-by-step instructions to show food recovery organizations how they can start earning additional revenue through their own carbon offset programs. Find me at the conference for a copy or for more information.
Who's 4.1 million meals!
Delivered across our community! 10,000 plus meals a day! 20% more food than last year!
Hey, we don't horse around.
White Pony Express!
Elaine Fury, Rap America is celebrating the power of collaboration. WWF Refed Rap and the Ad Council are launching a 5-year national campaign to end wasted food in households, with USCC and ILSR leading composting efforts. Your work has helped to build this moment. We are past the tipping point. We need you to help take this from a campaign to a social movement. Join us, sign up, apply for grants. Let's do this together.
Pretty awesome, huh? Okay, I know you all wanted Joel up here, but you get me one more time. And I would like to invite Jesse and Betsy Fink up to the stage for a minute before I sign off for the day. They didn't know this is coming, so they're embarrassed already. I know these guys don't love attention, so I will keep this very brief. It was actually a little over 10 years ago that I met Jesse. Since then, he and Betsy have quietly fostered. Can you guys stand over here? I'm told the light is better. I'm going to try to do this without crying. Since then, he and Betsy have quietly fostered Refed and the food waste movement with the goal of creating that big tent where everyone is welcome to contribute a solution to this massive problem. You won't hear or see them much, but they have always been there advising critical strategic decisions, supporting catalytic action, and making sure that anyone interested in reducing food waste has a home in this community. Refed certainly would not exist without them. And I don't know where the progress would be either. And personally, I have valued Jesse's mentorship more than you can imagine. So it's with absolute joy that I would like to kick off the summit today by presenting you for both the first, likely the only, Chief Tent Builders Award. You don't have to speak, don't worry. No talking required. All right, next up, I would like to invite up to the stage our incredible, I'm not gonna call them a panel because this is not a panel. At Refed, if you have been here before, you will know we like to experiment a little bit. So today's experiment is having 4 of kind of some of the best luminaries in the food world from different angles sit around a table and just kind of chat about the state of food, the food landscape today, and we get to listen to them. So please come up and join us. We have Kim Severson, who is a lead food reporter at the New York Times. We have Emily Broad Lieb, who is director of the Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic. We have Michel Nischan, who often needs no introduction, and it's also hard to introduce because he is a James Beard award-winning chef. He founded Wholesome Wave, which is responsible for the Double Up Bucks program and SNAP. He's led a lot of chef advocacy and policy trainings at work and has done, well, you'll hear. And Michel Bakker, who is the president of the Culinary Institute of America and has a long history in food and hospitality, and is also, I'm incredibly grateful to say, our newest Refed board member. So come on up, you guys. I have to say, as they're coming up, I am kind of jealous. I really wanted to be there with them, but we decided that was too many people, so excited to listen.
Hello, are we all on? I am waiting for my facial for my work spa, but get my agent on that. Yeah, usually, you know, in the South, when we sit around a table like this, we just start with like, how's your mama, Nim? But we're not gonna, we'll talk about like your new car and what your—
Mama's fine.
Mama's good.
Mama's good.
How's that nephew getting out of jail? Is he okay? Yeah, that's usually
Not with any help from me.
But I think you put him there, but that's
yeah,
all right.
exactly.
Anyway, this is a great opportunity, and you know, the conversations, my favorite conversations always happen around the kitchen table, so we're just gonna go for it. And I think none of us expected to be in this place where Alice Waters and that guy with the Viking hat are sharing the same place on the Venn diagram, you know, but here we are. It's a really exciting and interesting time in food change, right? It's nothing like it. We're all like sort of thrilled and terrified, and it's great and it's terrible, and it's so great place to start. We're going to start with you because you are deep in the food policy world. So are we like, what are the, I feel like maybe we're getting rid of food additives. Is that just a small thing? Is that a big thing? You know, we're turning upside down the FDA regulations. Is there really policy change? What's the narrative that you're seeing as like being deep in the legislative world, Emily?
Yeah, I love that. I love your example of this weird Venn diagram. We were talking before about, people might have seen last year this Washington Post piece that was a quiz, and it was, who said this, Michelle Obama or RFK? And I actually got most of them wrong. So it was like, you know, it was a great quiz. I love those, you know. I'm like, oh, I'm not the expert on food policy. I got this all wrong. But there's this interesting alignment. And I think, I guess a couple things. So first, to your point, there is, I would say, things that I've been trying to work on for a while in the food space that it's exciting to see this administration actually trying to push them forward. I know most of the people here through the work that my team and I do in food waste and food recovery, but also I run a center that does broader food policy and health policy work, so we work kind of across all these sectors. And for a while, we've been talking about really wanting to refocus regulation of food on like long-term and chronic illness. Not that, you know, acute food safety isn't incredibly important, but I've written a lot about like we're focused so much there, but actually where all like the illness and deaths are is really chronic. It's, you know, additives in food, it's poor nutrition, it's, you know, all these other things, ultra processed food. So it's been interesting to see all of this. To your point, there's a lot of talk. The action part has been a little bit slower. Like this administration has said we're going to better regulate the way additives get into food. You know, I'm like on the edge of my seat waiting for a rule to come out that has been sitting around since December on that. They're, you know, have said they're gonna, you know, update front of package labeling, which can help people make better decisions. They're gonna define ultra processed food. I don't know, none of those things have happened. A lot of it's been more kind of talking points. On the flip side, those talking points have actually turned into action at the consumer level. Like we see a lot of consumers picking up this narrative and saying, yeah, I want healthier food. I want to demand healthier food. I want the government to regulate and make sure that the food I'm eating is better for me in the long term. And the other place we're seeing action is at the state level. So a couple years ago, California was the first state to do work banning certain additives in food and then banning colors in schools. And then that was 2023, 2024, maybe 3 other states introduced things. Starting last year, there were 119 bills introduced in 43 states that would regulate ultra-processed food in schools, regulate additives, require more disclosure of foods that are using generally recognized as safe substances that have not yet been submitted to the FDA. And we're seeing that across the political spectrum. So this is turning into action. It's just not exactly where we thought it was going to be a year ago, I think, when we started, or a year and a half ago, when we stared hearing about this.
Right, and because the food industry is so reactive, right? So I mean, I saw some like clear Gatorade on the, like there's so many problems with that, like on many levels, like a big plastic bottle of this clear, but it was clear, and I was like, okay, it's not red. That's good.
You don't know what flavor it's going to be until you try.
That's a mystery. Yeah. So I don't know if that's changed or not. Okay.
This is actually clear Gatorade.
Thank you. Right. First of all, how can God? There's so many things I want to go at. First of all, ultra-processed foods. That seems to be all of us have been like great. Like, but does that mean I'm not going to have my Cheez-Its? Or I mean, you know, like I want to be realistic here. But can we actually get our arms around what ultra-processed food is. Could you actually regulate that? And we're going to get to you in a second, sir. But I mean, is that an actual, from a regulatory perspective, could you define that?
Yeah, so actually, I was part of a group of that Healthy Eating Research put together a group of experts, I don't know, 8 months ago. Right. So there were 14 of us experts. It was a really cool mix of the lawyers, like me, and the public health folks. And the discussion was like, what does the public health science show us? And then what do the lawyers or policy folks feel like where that meets with regulation? So we published last week a kind of proposed definition. I think sorry, I should say, what are the policies that go with that? And it was tricky. I think the trickiest thing, honestly, is that no one has to say what they're doing when they process food. Like when you pick up a package of whatever, the Gatorade, the Doritos, the whatever, it tells you what's in it, but it doesn't say like, this process, this food was mashed up and then it was extruded and then they did this and then they did that. So the best way to define it is by the presence of certain substances in there that wouldn't be in there if you were making it at home or, with a relatively limited set of like ingredients and tools. But then what we really said as a group was, so we're going to say ultra-processed means it has a cosmetic additive or a non-home culinary ingredient. But that doesn't mean all of those should be regulated. We can then layer on top of that, like foods that meet the FDA definition of healthy, we wouldn't regulate because we know they're contributing something beneficial to diet. You could layer on top of that foods that meet that definition and are really high in sugar or salt. Like those are the ones. So I think it's a great resource. It was interesting because we started this process, the government said they were going to define ultra-processed. We're like, well, we're never going to make the deadline for when they define it. But now we actually have something that they can look at, I think, as a starting point. So I think it is tricky, it is hard. The biggest thing that people are concerned about is that it's going to hit so many foods. Yeah. But I think if we layer on top of it some of these other ways to really determine like what within that category are things we really want to advise people to eat or not.
Right, because already some of the food industry pushback is like, well, everything's processed. Your grandma's canned beans were processed. So you already sort of define like the word processed is not a bad word, and I can't even imagine. But if you feel like we're getting, I mean, feels like the fact that we're even having discussion at the federal level is a big thing. And now you have been in many food industry worlds, right? And tell us a little bit about like your, you're at the Culinary Institute now, but before, and you were at Google and looked at food systems, but even deeper in the belly of the beast in the food industry.
So I started and grew up in the hotel industry, worked for 17 amazing years for Starwood Hotels and Resorts, did food and beverage for North America, and then my final 2 years in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Came back to the US to lead Google's Food at Work program for 12 years, and got to see quite a bit of ultimately from what is driving people to make better food choices. Left 2 years ago, and I'm now the leader of the Culinary Institute of America, an organization that is celebrating its 80th birthday this coming Friday. And we're basically in the business of generating the next generation of food and beverage leaders. So we offer associates, bachelor's and master's degrees in all kinds of things like culinary arts, baking and pastry art, broader food and beverage management. So we are, to an extent, the tastemakers for food away from home.
Okay, and so do you feel like the things that we're talking about, is this change really happening where ultra-processed foods and additives and all of the stuff that RFK and his administration is against, and the Maha Moms, is that actually translating to your world at all, or are they separate? I mean, are the kids you're seeing coming in the CIA, do they care about this stuff?
So the majority of our students are younger students. Yeah. So fresh out of high school, they're mission driven. They want to change the world, and they're very focused on
good luck to them.
No, there's so much good stuff to be done. And I think they're very focused on the things that they're excited about. It might be the environment, it might be sustainability, it might be health. Many of them come from environments where they were impacted by the things we're talking about over here. What I find in my world is that it is a little bit more, I would say, in the middle, where people get to see and accept that there are multiple versions of the same story, and that it's not as black and white. It's not like ultra-processed is great or ultra-processed is bad. It's a little bit of all of the above, and I think we need to work together to sway the system. And I think there is a time and place for specific products that might not have the biggest or best nutritional value, but those are the indulgences that you can really, really enjoy. And I think it's much more about from in which areas can we make the biggest impact? And that might, for example, be in healthcare, it might be in assistant care, elder care, it might be in the prison system, in school food systems. And then to think through what are the levers that we as a collective group can really actually push on. And I think our students are very focused on that, and I think the more we can instill their responsibility and opportunity early on, the better it's going to be. And the way I look at it is, I'm not going to tell you anything new. There are blue states and there are red states. And depending on where you sit, you will ultimately find your own tribe. And what it is, I hope we do, where we ultimately prepare conscious culinary leaders. That people actually are critical thinkers and they think through what is the impact of the choices I can make in my environment, and whether I'm going to work for a fast food organization, for Walmart, for Unilever, or for a regenerative farm, because there's a need and a place for all of them. Right. So very similar to ReFed, I absolutely believe in the biggest possible tent to bring as many people along and focus on where do we agree, and leave all the areas, which is so much fun, to focus on the disagreements, but we're going to get to those when we've solved the middle.
Right. And so I think, with CAA for a while, we had the celebrity chef moment and all those kids who grew up in the 90s on Food Network TV, and then they all wanted to go to chef school, and they all they started getting the turnip tattoos, and they all had their own restaurants. And CIA was full of all those kids, right? That was the thing. I'm going to own my own restaurant. This is going to be my thing, right? And I think we're kind of, that's certainly a place in culinary culture, but what are you, so are you saying at the CAA now you're seeing conscious, what did you say?
Conscious culinary leaders.
Conscious culinary leaders. So when the kids come in to go to school now and to learn this is part of it, the idea of the environmental impacts and the nutritional impacts?
Totally.
It's a kind of a new thing, I think, for the CIA.
Yeah, so we started in 1946 as a culinary trade school for returning GIs after the Second World War, after their service to return into civil society. And over the years, we've grown from a great culinary trade school to now a specialty-focused college. But we now offer, in addition to your associate's degree, bachelor's and master's. For example, in Hyde Park, upstate New York, 60% of our students are now bachelor students, and they are the true change makers. They love the kitchen. That's not where they want to be long term. So basically, they want to get grounded in the kitchen and then think through, with that culinary expertise, how can I affect change? And that's where you'll find the next generation of food activists, research chefs, or people who want to work in elderly care, where they can really make an impact at scale. And I think the narrative that we were a school predominantly for the celebrity chefs, I think that was to an extent a little bit of our own narrative, but it's to an extent, it's the 1% of the 1% of our students will end up over there, and obviously those gets the most attention, similar to many kids aspire to be a football player, but there are very few of those who aspire to become that, ultimately become that. And I think nowadays, we really prepare the next generation for so many different parts of the most amazing in the food and beverage industry.
So when you, we'll get to you in a minute, Michel. So I'm just really curious. So
this
the
is
kids,
easy.
Yeah, right, you got a big dance number at the end, so get ready for that. So when the kids come in, are they, when you talk about their political, environmental, their social good change topics, is it the ingredients in the food? Is it food waste? Is it hunger?
All of the above.
What are they interested in?
So if I would say, and I say it with deep respect for our students, many of them don't necessarily always come from privileged environments. So they come from environments where what we do over here has helped them to come along. They might be dependent on food stamps and other stuff as well. So when they show up and they're the first generation students, they're going to pay it forward. And that therefore, for them, it's not something that you get to do because, it is a thing that you believe is the right thing to do. They've lived it, and they want to make an impact in the community and for the families they came from. And I think that is an extraordinary conviction, and they will affect change.
Right. And Michel, you're working with the youth now, the youngs, in a way that you haven't.
I'm working
before.
with, I'm sorry?
The youngs, the kids, the
youth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right, so, because what you're doing is like some leadership stuff now, right? And you've seen generations of young people come through wanting to work in the food space, right? And change things. What are you seeing now? And I know tell us a little bit about your new mentoring program that you're doing and some of the boot campy stuff that you do.
a Wholesome Wave, I founded in 2007, and we founded to figure out a way to effectively try to end nutrition insecurity through common sense ways. So we created the SNAP Doubling Program, which
Do you guys know what the SNAP Doubling Program is?
So it's Double Up Food Bucks, Fresh Match. It's all over the country now, but...
so when you go to the farmer's market, like
you go to a farmer's market or you go to a participating grocery retailer, and if you're on SNAP benefits and you spend your SNAP benefits on fruits and vegetables, you get double the fruits and vegetables. So it's like a 2-for-1 fruit and vegetable sale.
Right.
It was illegal when we started. With the first money in the bank was the Betsy and Jesse Fink Foundation, by the way. We had to work with the Bush administration to make it legal. And then we worked during the Obama administration. It became a fully funded federal pilot called the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive Program, which many of you out here know. That was during Obama, and then it became a permanent part of the federal farm bill. It is baseline, cannot be defunded, cannot be debated on the floor. It's here to stay, and that became permanent and named after my late co-founder, Gus Schumacher, during the first Trump administration. So our focus has been that we believe food is nonpartisan. Viking hat, Alice Waters, they both have to eat.
Alice Waters in a Viking hat.
When I open the doors of my restaurant, they're both welcome.
Yep.
We don't have signs out saying MAGA not welcome, AOC not welcome, libertarians not, Muslim, Christian, Jewish not welcome. Everybody's welcome. We just want to see the twinkle in their eye and the smile on their face when they put something we made in their mouth, right? And I think we achieve that because of the trust that the culinary community brings to conversations around food. Because we welcome everybody. We can set a table and say, let's talk about food waste, let's talk about nutrition insecurity, let's talk about whatever it might be, and we can get people from diverse ideologies having a civil conversation around it, different than it would be if it was in a town hall or something. And a lot of these youngsters that I'm seeing, I call them youngsters because I'm an old guy.
That's right.
I'll whip out my Medicare card.
I'll
show you. Yeah. But you know, they get it. They get it. And I think a defining moment was the pandemic because this, digital media, social media, the way these young kids get their information, the speed with which they get their information, they ended up sequestered. And instead of just watching food, I mean, still almost 50% of all digital media images are food. Instead of just watching food TV, they started cooking at home. And they picked the hardest stuff, sourdough bread.
Oh, right.
That's hard. Yeah. And it was Jacques Pepin who called me. She's like, Michel, you need to follow these 4 people. There was this dialogue going on where somebody killed their sourdough starter.
Right.
And wept about it. And it just, this whole support group. But there's this awareness, and I think it's really relevant for the food waste movement especially, is now that the MAHA thing has happened, you've got 2 things. You have these young kids that are clamoring to get into an institution like CIA, and there's this direction that Michael and his team are taking it in that it's almost like their MIT moment, I think, in many ways, right, is the way I look at it. And then you've got the MAHA movement has given permission to a large swath of rural Americans who used to be afraid to talk about these issues because they didn't want to be perceived as progressive. And now they're kind of out of the closet on it, for lack of a better term. They're talking about it openly. This is a real moment for us. And when we see these kids who come to school already looking at food as a living thing, it's like, when I killed my first chicken, I couldn't sleep for like 2 months because I realized I had watched them get killed. I was working my grandfather's farm, but when I felt that in my own hands, I'm like, how do you make the beak delicious? It's like, you want to use everything, and these kids have this.
Right.
So, and they bring an energy to it like never before. I mean, Michael's challenge, all of our challenges, how do we keep up with this, and how do we provide that rapid learning experience that primes that pump and builds the type of momentum that turns into a real movement? So that's what we're trying to foster with One Kitchen, is providing a mentorship environment for those chefs in the place that they call home so that they can have an impact beyond the four walls of their kitchen.
I mean, it is amazing the palates and the interest and the global palate and the ability to cook that young people have, you know, and it's particularly I think that the Gen Z kids have grown up, you know, understanding food and in ways it's cultural currency for them in ways it was never, you know, and also people are eating, I think the whole idea of the formal dinner, the entree, the appetizer, entree, dessert model in restaurants is getting blown up. People are snacking, they're eating at a lot of different times, you know, which I think also impacts kind of what kind of systems you build around food, right? But I mean, are you guys seeing just the entire way that we eat, I think, is getting upended, maybe for better or worse. So I don't know, from your perspective, does how people eat and shop at the grocery store, when you're writing food policy, are you thinking about that? Or is it from the plate or is it from the, I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, I actually feel like Dana did a really nice job setting up this discussion, like pointing to, because I think there's sort of these trends, like Michel talked about coming, you know, the last few years around how people are thinking about food and how young people are thinking about food. You know, this MAHA discussion, which again, I think has really brought, like what we're seeing is really alignment across political parties, across states on these issues. But then we are bumping up against some of these things right now. Like I think food prices is a big, you know, is a big issue. The other thing that I think is shaping this a lot is, and I think this is a downside of MAHA, like it's been very focused on, we need healthier food, we need to think about long term. But at the same time, there's been a lot of movement of this Congress and administration that I think is making it harder for people to access food through, you know, things like cuts to SNAP, cuts to Medicaid, which doesn't necessarily directly cut food, but it cuts people's household income. So I think there's also, the other thing I think a lot about from like where the policies are meeting is, we're pushing for healthier food. We recognize some of that there might be a cost trade-off at the same time that we're sort of making it difficult for households to have those money. And I think just also that it will impact retail as well. So when we saw, you know, when you think about people having a reduction in income and buying power, retailers then they rely a lot, especially on SNAP and on those dollars coming in. So when I think about like where we're gonna see waste happen, I think that's a place we'll see it because all of these big shifts make it very unpredictable. And all the things that we all talk about in here around reducing food waste and putting systems in place to recover it and think about what to do with it relies to some extent on like having repeatable, you know, trends and processes, and the more unpredictable some of those things are, it makes it somewhat tricky.
Right. And I mean, we have to be realistic about what the administration, for all the good that it did in terms of finally opening up food, you know, like cutting the farm to school program, which was
local food for schools.
You know, so there's like, I mean, there were, you know, farmers and people who had built their model on, I'm going to give all of my ground grass-fed beef to the school down the street, and that just, you know, I think was it 16 million, or I can't remember the number, but they just eliminated that program. So I think there are places. The other thing that I think is really interesting too is the amount of data that's getting killed from the USDA for farmers, and this is, this feels like an unsung crisis because they've really reduced, you know, I used to be able to call up as a reporter and be like, what's the blueberry crop going to look like? Where are the problems? I'd be like, oh, drought's killing. I could write a story. Oh, blueberries are going to drought, you know, because they had that data, and you can't. There's just no way to get the ag data, and when you get it, it's kind of wrong. So I think there's, like from the farmer's perspective, right now it's a really tricky time, and there were a lot of, you know, promised projects for that got, I think, that just decimated farmers, right? But on the other hand, I also hear that, like, you know, the ability for farmers to move food through the system is getting better and easier for smaller farmers. I don't know if you guys, what you're seeing in that area, but what's that?
Yeah, it's, they're clearly more supply chain opportunities, but a lot of it getting back, a lot of it's happening at the state level. Because at the federal level, I mean, how many Dr. Seuss fans are in here? Anybody ever hear of them? Right.
So don't be shy, it's okay.
So there's an animal that's got a head on both sides of the push me, pull you, right? That's what this administration is. And frankly, it's from administration to administration. Emily and I were talking about this earlier. It's like ruling by executive order. One of the reasons why Congress has been so lazy and ineffective is because almost everything happens by executive order. The outgoing administration does a whole bunch of executive orders, and then the incoming one kills them and then does their own executive orders, and then that cycle repeats. And then you have this didactic cutting LFPA, cutting LFS, looking to cut SNAP while talking about food as medicine and regenerative agriculture. That's a push you, move, pull you, which is why you see the energy in the states.
Yeah, that's where it's happening.
Moving in this direction because, again, even though a lot of it's messaging coming out of MAHA, you now have kind of an 80-20 rule. 80% of the American public is on board with concepts like regenerative agriculture, food as medicine, getting rid of ultra-processed foods, eating healthier. 30% of the public is already on GLP-1s. You know, more protein, more vegetables, better protein, less animal protein, all of these things. The broader consumer base is going after it, and I think it would be short-sighted of any of us not to be aiming at them instead of aiming at this administration or the next administration, because where the consumer goes, eventually these are constituents, which is why the states are doing it, because they know they can't rely on the feds to get it done. So it's one of the reasons why with One Kitchen, we're building coalitions in states of 12 to 50 chefs that are in that state working on things that matter to them. You know, where their kids are going to school and where they pay their taxes.
And there's so much regionality of the food. I mean, in the South, you know, the food system here is completely different than you would see in the Northeast, right? And just the way that we eat and give food around. And let's talk about.
Can I just go back to, I think there's another part of this conversation. It's like average Joe who goes to all kinds of restaurants. And what is so interesting is that more and more of the meals are eaten out of home. And what you get there as well, more and more at least ordered online. And now what you get, I get it my way at my moment of choosing through my app. And I think you're going to get this really interesting tension between the provider who's dealing with rising food costs, rising labor costs, rising insurance, utility costs. And at the same time, the consumer is expecting more and more stuff customized. And we're losing our willingness to have meals together. And I think over time, a couple of really interesting things are going to happen. So if you think about culinary traditions, food traditions, we probably grew up and had family meals. And you probably saw your mom or your grandmom or your grandpa or your dad cook at home. We're not doing that anymore in the same way. So you're going to get the question about how will we ultimately pass on our food traditions? So on the one hand, we say we're ultimately more focused on food. But at the same time, there's this extraordinary pressure for convenience, and then we get it your way as well. And I think there comes a moment where it will no longer work, or we realize that we've killed our traditions, or we've not passed them on, and then we're even more dependent on ultimately the broader system to provide us what the system will provide us.
But I think there's a huge customization, though, right? Because I had kids who they are ordering DoorDash or ordering whatever they want when they want it. But at the same time, and this just our experience with NYT as a cooking app that we get a lot of data from about how people want to cook and the kids. But there's this real interest in having dinner party meals or collections that help you cook for friends. And that's so they're not like the elaborate Martha Stewart, although she's having yet another resurgence among the kids. Martha, like, girl.
She's her authentic self.
Oh, man. I don't know.
That's a big deal.
Well, may we all be able to do that. I don't know. She's great. But
I think the other interesting thing that we've been tracking a lot and have worked on for a while, though, is actually there's also a lot of movement towards like home-produced meals, and a lot more states like passing laws that allow foods to be sold from homes, whether cottage foods or actually like full meals.
The laws for
so that's
cottage
like that also.
Huge.
We have like basically every 5 years for the last 15 years put out these update trackers. So I've been reviewing it. And like in the last 5 years, 26 states expanded what's allowed to be made in homes and offered for sale. So there's sort of like, some people are not cooking, but there's also now this movement towards people want to buy things from their neighbors.
Of something homemade is a huge value. And also pop-up restaurants, food trucks, like the idea that people doing interesting creative craft around food is really valuable to people, even though they may have to just do their DoorDash when they have to. So, is that gonna go? I mean, the lock that food delivery and DoorDash has on, is that going away? Is that peaking? Will it always just be part of it? Or I hate it because the food is never hot, and then I got to figure out the guys deliver. It's just I hate it.
Yeah,
make a sandwich. That's what I say.
It's difficult to say. I mean, to Michael's point, convenience is a really powerful motivator, right? It's a powerful motivator. But when I think of the costs that it drives, and I think of the economic position that it puts restaurants in, because it's, you know, I wish Michael would have become president of CIA like a decade ago, before these companies were created, because that, you know, being able to include technology in a culinary curriculum, imagine if something like a DoorDash was created from within our industry instead of from tech moguls who are predatory to our industry. So we don't have any control over the design of where that's going to go, and I think there's going to be an affordability factor that eventually could level it off. But my feeling is the one reason why I don't find it weird at all that Alice and Viking Guy are on the same page on food, because they both emotionally connect to food. They really do. And I think we've all missed a boat when the data is important, the evidence bases are important, all of those things obviously are important, but when it really comes to motivating everyday individuals, leveraging the storytelling and that emotional connection to food that everybody shares, regardless of their ideology, regardless of their religion, who they love, from where they come, to whom they pray, all of that stuff, that's a connection that is been alive for millennia.
Michelle, you have my vote.
I just think, you know, just the power of food is something that actually allows us to connect to somebody who's raising 4 kids on $22,000 a year in the South Bronx, to, you know, somebody who's got a 150-foot yacht.
Doing caviar boats.
You know? It just, it's the one thing that allows humans to align, and I think we need to spend really more time helping people understand how they personally connect and how they can talk about that in a way where it starts to define them. It's their own story around it. Because nobody will ever give that up. Once you emotionally connect with food, somebody can't take it away from you.
And this is an ethos that's in this generation that wasn't 20 years ago, really, or just was beginning. I mean, do you see when people are coming up policy, like, can you connect over food in that way at like policy level and at corporate level? Do you think that we're working with a real cultural change now where we can, you know, take that energy and translate it to business and to government? I mean, because we're all smarter about food? Are you not buying it?
No.
I call bullshit, Mr. Nischan. Yeah.
He's an academic. Right.
Don't you believe? Jesus.
No, I think it has to do with trust. And I agree. And same in the conversation over here. It's easy to say, I don't understand why the other side doesn't get it, because it's really straightforward, and let me explain it to you. But it's not about the pure knowledge. It's ultimately we have lost trust in so many entities, whether it's government entities, big corporations. And now we have more trust in our neighbor. If the neighbor tells you, you should eat more protein, I'm going to eat more protein because my neighbor is a big buff. That's what I'm going to do as well. But there is no science for that. And therefore we can say that's weird, but we're bypassing the conversation, but why have we lost so much trust? And I think in that specific space, chefs and medical professionals have an extraordinary role to play. Because if you think about it, you don't think for a nanosecond about who made your breakfast this morning. You trust that the executive chef of this hotel has the best in mind for you. But think about it for a moment. You put stuff in your body blindly to a large extent, similar to medical professionals. So I think those two groups have an extraordinary role to play and to think about food-related issues going forward. And I think we need to step up and then partner with policymakers. But it's not about, it's just clearly the science, and we just speak louder or repeat our same message over and over again. And I always tell the story about seed oil. And I have no idea where you sit with the seed oil, whether you think it's good or bad. But it's not about the specific thing. It is ultimately from why have we come at a stage where we're actually having conversations about seed oil. It's a trust issue, and we're forgetting about that.
So maybe crisis of trust is where we are with the food system right now, and in that space is how things can change.
Totally.
Right? Because you're right, people will listen to someone who did their own research, my neighbor who did their own research, and you'll listen to that more than you're going to listen to really your doctor even at this point.
And then obviously technology companies play a role as well, with ultimately social media and now with algorithms as well. So you get to consume what you liked to hear, and that forms your opinion, and then we're surprised that we probably all have different opinions in this room.
Yeah. You were going to say something?
I was going to say, I mean, I think it's really insightful, and I agree with a lot of what Michael said. I do, and I think to your point, like how you Kim, said this crisis of trust is driving like some of the push for policy change. But I also think just, the fact that these conversations are happening is such a big shift from like where we were, when I got started in working in food policy, in food waste, or even before, I got started working in rural Mississippi on food policy with local farmers markets and farmers. And how far we've come from there to now in terms of like who's having this conversation, the level of like awareness and education and interest. For so long, food is actually fairly under-regulated. It doesn't really have its own agency. Yes, we have an FDA. Yes, the first word is food, but even within FDA, less than a third of the funding and staff is actually food. It's mostly drugs and medical devices. So, we sort of food flowed through all these ways, but now there's really a moment, and I think it applies to the, what we're eating. It's sort of this MAHA, narrative, which again, I see as picking up on what states were already talking about, what folks in like the food as medicine and good food space were talking about. It's true in the food waste sector too. I mean, this room 10 years ago was, a quarter of what's in here now. I don't know, we have to run the numbers, but like just who was talking about this, the level of awareness of this topic in terms of state policy, as we saw from Dana, in terms of federal policy. So I think there's a lot of work to do, but the fact that these topics are getting as much play as they are brings me a lot of hope, and I think, I think it's on all of us, but the more of us that there are, the more we can kind of make that actually turn into policies that make food healthier and make the food system more sustainable.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you buying that?
I can get along with that.
I like that. He's a businessman. He's like, well, it could happen. I don't know. How bad do we, in terms of how we're eating it, I just want to talk to you about the Google years that you had, which was, we all dreamed of going to the office where we could have unlimited ramen bar and like an actual person from, Tibet making me my Tibetan momo, so you guys screwed up a lot for those of us who work at, at newspapers, for example. But is that, do you see that era? What did tech bring us in that way that was, I guess, good for maybe, made people realize that if you feed people well, they'll work more. And then now tech with the AI.
That's busting down a lot of this.
Okay. All right, tell me what it was.
So it was really about enabling people to be at their best and bringing people together. So I think an organization like Google and other tech companies as well, they're really focused on building community. And there is no better way to build community than having a good meal together. And obviously we did it with intent and we did it with care and we had all kinds of great food, but that was really the intent.
It wasn't just to make them work longer and harder?
No.
Okay.
Do you believe that?
No. Okay. So,
I think it was. I think it was both.
No. So Kim, honestly, think about what happened with Zoom, right? In online meetings with the pandemic, and it's fun. I've seen people in here who are like, "Oh, I only knew you on Zoom.
You're 6 feet
you're
tall.
You're so much taller." Yeah.
I always get you're so much shorter.
As wonderful of an advent as that's been in many ways, I think it's actually helped highlight the fact that there's nothing that can replace direct human contact. And when you put a meal on the table and you get a team of any kind working together, whether they're a software engineer or a bridge building engineer or whoever they are, they're going to interact and work better as a unit and as a team and feel more like a family because they had a meal together.
Right.
You can't do that on Zoom. You can't. I can't send you an ass-kicking mac and cheese with house-cured pork belly through my phone.
I wish you
I
could.
can't do it.
Yeah. But
I wish I could too.
And that's really happening in corporate. We just had a story in the paper about IHOP now shifting into sending like pancakes to companies for like this idea of large format restaurant food going to corporations and companies buying that, and because they're just finding the value in, you know, now again, why do I want to eat my pancake that's not hot off the grill? But that's my issue. It's not for this group. But you know what I mean? Like that group eating is a thing.
Totally, but I think if you take a longer time horizon, because obviously the pandemic disrupted how we think and how we feel and what we do, but we're social creatures. We want to be together. We want to have meals together. So what you're seeing right now at work, that will continue to evolve. And I think when you see now, look at people graduating from college or entering the workforce, they dread being at home by themselves and getting online. They long ways to get together, and therefore, 10 years from now, I want to make a bet with you. We're going to have a conversation that we're going to be way more in the office or together again, because this will pass too.
Yeah, but not every day. The Gen Zers, don't know Monday and Friday. If they could just
work-life balance.
That's right, work-life balance. I know.
But I want to find my partner, and I want to have fun, and you cannot have it all together.
Right, right. Well, we could. Okay, let's do some lightning round thing. First of all, GLP-1s is this seismic change forever? Is this just a glitch? What is the good and bad of GLP-1s? We'll start with you.
I thought you were hoping you were going to start with them.
Yeah, I know you did.
I mean, I think it's a pretty seismic change. I don't think they're going away, but I think it is also opening up both the benefit. You know, I think a lot of benefits for people who are on the drugs, but also like a bigger discussion around like what's wrong with our food that people need to take these drugs in order to be healthy, which again I think is already and is gonna continue to be a feedback loop into like what is our food system, how are we regulating, and I think we'll both change on the healthfulness side of food and also on the sustainability side, because we're going to have to adapt in terms of like, what is a meal? How big is it? How do we do this correctly? So, you know, I think there's going to be a rocky period to get there, but I think ultimately they're going to impact in a pretty big way.
Yeah, and maybe it'll reduce food portions, hopefully, like the idea, because I know some people are eating half a meal.
And hence waste.
Yeah, so GLP.
Yeah, I think the food system writ large over the last 7 decades has been very addictive and has caused people to overeat. And people on their own, once they're in that cycle of overeating, it's almost impossible for them to change that.
Yeah.
And this is something, I'm always leery about stuff when it's like, it just came out and now everyone's using it. It's kind of like, you know, is someone going to have a third head growing out of their shoulder? I don't know.
Right, I don't know.
Stuff like that concerns me, but what encourages me about it is that the diet that people should be following when they're using this therapy is the same diet they should be using if they have a heart condition, if they have type 2 diabetes, if they have hypertension. It's you know, more protein, more of it from plants, a lot more fiber. Whole foods are the things that people should be eating and feel best when they eat those things when they're on these. They're losing the weight, they're feeling good about themselves, they're becoming used to the foods that they didn't used to eat more of, and they're stopping craving the things that they used to eat most of.
Yeah.
I think it's a potential powerful pump primer.
Yeah.
And it's Michael Pollan said it. You know, it's like, you know, eat less food, eat more from plants. It's like that whole mantra is something that we've known, but we haven't had that opportunity as a society to have something that can actually help us get there. Right. So I think it has potential, but it also scares me a little bit, honestly.
You're for it, kind of. Okay. GLP-1s.
Here to stay. It addresses symptoms, not root causes.
Okay.
Is we have to think through from what has caused us to change our lifestyles and what can we do to go back to, or to move forward to better lifestyles. I think it's really interesting to see when people have been on basically on episodes of GLP-1 drugs, when you do it for the 3rd or the 4th time, it has different impacts. And we're only at the beginning of experiencing what it is. Yep. So I don't believe that a person will going to take GLP-1 drugs for 40 years. And that therefore it's considered the magical drug as of today. My unscientific, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, my gut feeling is that 10 years from now, we're going to realize there was more to the story than we know as of today.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like it's a little bit of the American way. We have a problem, we find a magical solution, and we move on, versus why do we need a magical solution to start with? Because our core system is driving us to ultimately to bad outcomes.
Correct.
And that one pill does not fix the core issues.
Why do you hate America? No way. My God. Okay, we have 2 minutes. Couple quick things. Cellular meat, is that a thing?
Say again?
Cellular meat?
I prefer animals.
Cellular meat? What do you think? The regulate?
I think it's a thing. I think the big question is like, how far do we have to go to get to a place where it's actually affordable and becomes like a common thing?
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever eaten it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was expecting more. I was like, okay.
You wanted fireworks.
Yeah. Cellular meat.
Niche solution,
Okay.
and I want to make a bet with you, make a lot of bets with you
Okay.
today.
I know. I'm gonna be
Is that if you
Two
get
bets.
I know. It's like Polymark. It's like, yeah. People are betting on our panel right now, making on Polymarket, making a ton of money. Okay.
If you would have a good meatloaf, I don't think you would be able to say, well, it's true traditional animal protein or alternative proteins.
Yeah.
So obviously it's clear as of today, you can see the difference with the steak, but when it's ultimately processed, it is really, really hard, and then it becomes, if you know.
Right. I mean, do you think it's a good solution to animal welfare and things? I mean, ultimately, it's so expensive. Like, could we scale it?
Today,
yeah.
But I think that just as much as there are clear unintended consequences, externalities in our present system that should make our present food more expensive than it is as well.
Agreed.
Okay, last we have 1 minute. You can get the president to sign one executive order tomorrow about food. You can say whatever it wants. What's your
Michel's
executive
against
order?
executive orders. He already
I know.
did.
He's
He
not.
already.
My executive order is no more
I'm not an
executive
executive
orders.
order guy, but if it was just, honestly, the right to choose isn't in an amendment. It's in the Bill of Rights. And if you can't afford to add broccoli to your table for dinner, you don't have the right to choose it. So just like we need, that's a fundamental premise of the country, and we need an executive order that makes good food available for everybody.
Okay. Your executive order.
All right, so I know this is a cop-out a little, but I think we just need a better, like, sort of set of priorities for food and an agency or structure to bring those together. So, you know, this executive order is proclaiming we want food to be healthier, more sustainable, including less food waste, you know, better for, more equitable in terms of access to this point. And we're creating this structure that's now going to, across Congress and across policies, really take a stand on this is going to make food worse towards meeting those priorities, and we need to rethink it so that we can really think about, you know, how does this system not just get fixed in this administration, but in the longer term.
Okay. I know you hate America, but like, executive
You said
order.
it.
Right.
I would make it mandatory for food education to become part of elementary or middle schools.
Yeah.
All right. Great. All right.
That's actually a doable one.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. Any last words? I think we're about the end of our panel, and this has been awesome. I wish I had dessert and some coffee for you, but
I'll
don't.
cook next time.
All right. Anyway, thank you. It was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a little networking break. Can I just take a moment and just be like, my mouth was on the ground for that session. Can we give it up for everyone around that table? Kim, you kill me every time. You are so funny. I love you. I don't know, some big takeaways for me. I just love this idea of defining and the challenge of defining an ultra-processed food. I think that's really interesting. I went to CIA. I grew up on food TV in the 90s. I don't have a turn-up tattoo, but I love this idea of a conscious culinary chef, and this being kind of the next movement. I really took that away. And then I love this idea of Maha being okay, to kind of make it okay to think progressively. Just so much takeaways, so thank you all. We're gonna take a little bit of a networking break. There is a smoothie outside. It's provided by Chick-fil-A's shared table program, which is really great. And then we have our first round of breakout sessions. So that's downstairs. It starts at 11 o'clock. So make sure that you kind of head to the session that you want to. We'll be back here at 4 o'clock to talk a lot about AI. We're going to kind of do a world tour with AI. And then speaking of world tour, any Andrew Zimmern fans in the house? Dude, this guy is amazing. He's a culinary force. And Kim will be back up here slinging jokes and food. It will be great with Andrew. So we'll meet you back here at 4. Have a great networking session, everyone, and thank you so much.